80 miles east if you're on the Washington side. And my friend Paul Champoon called me and he said, some outfit named Chateau St. Michel just bought the farm and they say they're going to plant 2,000 acres of grapes in the next 3 years. Would you like to come back? We could use another foreman. That's what I just got back into. That's how I ended up in the grape and wine business. I saw how much money they were spending out there and I thought, man, I better pay attention to this. These people actually think this is going to work.
Go through your whole program yet. You have a few things
Oh,
in here.
well, that wasn't any of my program. I just, yeah, I got the floor. I might as well talk, right?
Well, last week, Lloyd DeCase started going because we had so many people in, and some of the rest of us got in here late, and we had an overflow crowd, and had to turn people away, so we prepared for that this week. And if you were among those people who were turned away last week, we do have that program up on YouTube right now. So it's let's see, Original Courthouse History Forums, or YouTube Original Courthouse History Forums, and you can get that program on the gorge geology that Lloyd did last week. We'll get this one up as soon as possible.
Maybe by tomorrow for sure.
Maybe by tomorrow. Roger is our techie who is working on that. He knows all about getting things up on YouTube. So the other thing we are prepared to do was, if we had to turn people away today, we asked Lonnie to do a second program. There may be people show up who heard about that and didn't come at 1:30 for whatever reason. So we'll see about that, but I do want to mention that, I'm getting a little feedback. Wayne back in the corner is the one who...
I've lost volume control, so
Oh, he doesn't have a volume control.
we'll give it a try.
A couple things about today. It's really a double header. We have something going on called History After Hours, and that was instituted a few years ago by Wasco County Historical Society. Brings together people from the various museums and history groups. Because a long time ago there were conflicts among some of the groups, and sometimes people didn't even talk to each other in the various. So this was an invitation then to get together at least once a year, talk to each other, tell them what's going on in their shop, and share that. So at 3:30 that group is meeting. But in between, one of the traditions of that History After Hours is to celebrate the Oregon birthday, the anniversary of statehood, which comes on Valentine's Day every year, 1859 Oregon statehood. So we have birthday cake downstairs. So when you go down the steps, I encourage you to take a right turn, go down the little hallway toward the restroom, and back in that corner, get a piece of birthday cake, then go out and get your coffee and enjoy that after the program. We don't charge for these programs, but we do encourage gifts and we do encourage memberships. There are membership forms at each of the doors, and if you haven't joined the courthouse, you're certainly invited to do that. You will get notices and reminders of our programs coming up, and it all helps to keep this old building going. We also send a sock around, and downstairs there is a sock that they're going to send around, and I'm going to start this one here, and contributions are welcome. And last week people were very generous, and this all helps to keep the doors open. So I think maybe that's all about the old courthouse, except there are some good things here. We try to keep improving it all the time. Chris Bolton, who is our docent, here in the summertime that also works at other times during the year, has done little displays all around the place. You notice some extra ones up on the walls here that tell the story of the courthouse. So take some time, look at those things, go in the jail downstairs, check it out. A lot of good things happen here at the courthouse. And we encourage you to bring guests here when you have people visiting in town. One of the little gems that's preserved here, one of the few places probably in the country that has all three of our courthouses over all those years, 164 years, I think, that we have all three of those courthouses. This is the first. Next week, the program will be on Eleanor Borg, and we're anticipating a good-sized crowd for that. And Linda Wilson is working on that program and issuing a special invitation to people that were in Eleanor's dance classes, acrobatics classes, pony club, all the things that Eleanor worked on during the year. And she would like to invite people to bring memorabilia and also right after the program to go on over to the new mural that was painted last summer over next to City Hall for a group picture. So that's coming up next week, and we're still working on whether there will be a second showing and maybe an invitation to come back here after that. We do have people who have an overflow crowd. So the drawing this week will be at the end and instead of at the beginning, and we want to be sure that tickets get both for the upstairs people and the downstairs people. And Lonnie has graciously supplied us with a bottle of wine, grand prize, but also a couple tastings. So we'll be having a drawing for those things, and your tickets in the jar there will be how we get to that, but we'll do it at the end of the program this time. So Lonnie doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. In fact, he put that up there, so I took the thunder away here. Just wanted to say he grew up back in the Midwest, just like I did, and the favorite vintage back there is Pabst Blue Ribbon or Bud Light, Strohs. Right. Well, he came west and learned the wine business, and one of the experts at it who really helped this place where we live to grow from one winery back in 1970 to 40 as of 2 years ago. And also, so it's become a recognized wine region, Columbia Gorge,
Columbia Gorge AVA and the Columbia Valley AVA.
Yeah.
So we're on the very west edge of the Columbia Valley AVA. The line comes through the Dalles.
He's going to talk about that today, and we're in for a treat because Lonnie's not only a viticulturalist and a Lifetime Achievement Award winner, but he's a raconteur who can take a little tiny story and spin it all into something big and great. So, Lonnie, we are yours.
Thanks, Carl. Okay, everybody get your pencils out. We're going to have the test now. Well, let's start with the let's start with the map that I passed out. I think the premise for this talk was why have we moved from one winery in 1980 to about 40 of them now in the Columbia Gorge. And when I say the Columbia Gorge, it's not just the Columbia Gorge AVA, it's the very west edge of the Columbia Valley AVA.
It's in the maps downstairs. There's some extra maps.
Yeah. But, you know what, I don't think I got the maps downstairs. I don't know where my map.
Is there extras? Thank you. Sorry to bother you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, folks. Sorry.
There we go. Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
So, and really the first part of this has to do with, this is is a great area to grow wine grapes. And it's very unique. And what really makes it unique is the fact that on the west side of the Columbia Gorge, and I'm talking about to the west side of the Hood River Valley and also Underwood Mountain on the Washington side. The Columbia Gorge ABA takes Washington and Oregon into its geographic area. So it's one area that spans 2 states. And so does the Columbia Valley. It goes to 2,000 feet elevation on either side of the river for the Columbia Valley. I'm not quite sure what was used for the Columbia Gorge. I actually was not involved in drawing that particular map. But what makes it really unique is the fact that this is a transition zone from the Willamette Valley to the Columbia Valley in Washington. And so we're talking about cool weather grapes in the Willamette Valley, which is Pinot Noir, and Pinot Noir, some Chardonnay, some Riesling, some Gewürztraminer, and a few other cool weather varieties. And then you come through the Columbia Gorge and end up going into the Columbia Valley, and those are warm weather varieties there. Some of the cooler weather varieties can be grown on certain slopes, like north-facing slopes here. But how this all comes about is by determining what they call heat units or degree days. And we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But just take a look at the map. On the left-hand side of the map, you can see on the Oregon south side of the river, we've got a Burgundy region. And on the north side of the river, that's Burgundy as well. And those are cool weather grapes. And then as you move east, the yellow is more like Rhone varietals, Syrah, Grenache, Viognier. As you go farther east, there's stripes there because you can do Bordeaux or Rhone varietals there. You do Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnays, and Zinfandels start showing up. And then as you get further east, which is just east of the kind of the edge of the map, there's Italian varietals that are being grown along the river. Cascade Cliffs has Italian varietals right down there. And of course, Zinfandel is Italian also. So that's kind of the premise for going forward here. If you're a grape grower and you're trying to figure out what to grow, it's all about how much heat do you have. How long is your growing season? How much heat do you have? Can you get the grapes to get ripe? And you don't want them to get ripe in July. You want them to be ripe in September, October. So you can have too much heat, or you can have just enough heat. And usually, just enough heat is what you're trying to find. So let's go ahead with, let's see if I can make this thing work. Oh, by the way, on the maps, the squares, the little squares, I drew this up for our tasting room. And the squares are vineyards that sold grapes to the pines, and we made wine out of. This is what I have my management company, and I was farming about, at one time about 250 acres of grapes, probably, I don't know, 12 or 13 different vineyards. 2 years ago, I sold that management company, so I'm I'm just farming the pines now, that's my home place. So this is a map of the Columbia Gorge AVA. Excuse me, this is the Columbia Valley AVA on the left-hand side. And let's go to the next one. You can see it's an awfully big AVA. AVA stands for American Viticultural Area. And it's following the Columbia River for quite a ways. Walla Walla is included in it. The Yakima Valley is included in the Columbia River AVA. So the Columbia Gorge AVA abuts that just right here between White Salmon, Underwood Mountain, and Hood River area. The west side of the Hood River Valley is the end of the Columbia Gorge AVA going west. And on the north side of the river, it's Underwood Mountain, pretty much. Okay, growing degree days. So the way you calculate growing degree days is you take the low for a day and the high for a day, and you take the average of the two, and you subtract 50 degrees from it. And that's how many growing degree days you had that day. And then you track that, you add it up for a growing season. And in grapes, they consider a growing season April 1st to November 1st. I've always thought that they should be tracking it through March, because if they did, they probably could tell us at what point we were going to see our buds come out in the spring. They call that bud break. The cherry growers, they track cherry fruit flies by degree days, and they send out a letter from the Extension Service saying the cherry fruit fly is going to emerge in 5 days up on Cherry Heights. It's going to emerge in 15 days on out way of 15 mile, Petersburg, and they can break that down, give you a Mosher, tell you when the cherry fruit fly is going to emerge. That's how close they can track it. So if you look at the map, that on the left-hand side, that's category 1, and that's basically the Willamette Valley, Underwood Mountain. You can see the Hood River Valley is a little bit warmer than the Willamette Valley. And that's what I've always said. Pinot Noir growing in the Hood River Valley is a little bit richer. It's a little bit bigger than most of the Willamette Valley Pinot Noirs. Because they don't get quite as ripe. And so they're not, when I say bigger, that's usually has to do with alcohol content. And it also has to do with mouthfeel. What's in your mouth. As opposed to mouthfeel, but it's not in your mouth. So let's go over to category 2. Yakima Valley at 2,600 heat units. Grants Pass, Napa, California. Now, each slope is slightly different. If you're on the south face of the slope, you'll have more degree days / heat units. They're synonymous, those terms. You can see what snow is in Napa, Mosher, and the Dalles. I have put computer chips out, and we've been trying to figure out what kind of degree days we have when we're trying to plant, say, a 30-acre vineyard. We put 4 or 5 of them out. and track them for 2 or 3 years, and see what they're learning at. And it really helps you to determine what varieties are gonna do well there and what varieties might not do so well. Under category 1, Beaune, France, which is the center of the Burgundy region in France, is at 2,300 heat units. If you look at Hood River, it's pretty much right in the center. That's the bullseye for Pinot Noir. I wish that this chart had a few more French or Spanish or Italian names on it. But if you look over on the category 3, that's 3,000 to 3,500 degree days. And things have warmed up. So the thing about global warming for me is it might not necessarily be warmer all the time, but the swings are bigger. It swings higher and it swings lower. It takes longer time to equalize out. And so if you look on that category 3, 3,000 to 3,500 degree days, we've got the Dalles at 3,000 to 3,200. But back here at category 2, the Dalles is at 2,600 to 3,000. How can that be? Well, it depends on where you are in the Dalles. It depends on what the slope is that you planted on. If you plant on a south-facing slope, when the grapes are going to be getting ripe at the end of the season, in September, when the sun's lowering the sky, that south-facing slope, depending on how steep it is, it's just like a catcher's mitt. And it's catching rays from the sun, staying warm. If you're on a north-facing slope, or level is not going to have as many heat units as a south-facing slope. And north-facing, you're going to have even less. We have Pinot Noir in the Dalles area that is planted on north-facing slopes. And ERAF bought it from us for years. This is a vineyard that I just sold my interest in a few years ago. I keep hearing there's something called retirement, but I haven't figured out how to get there. So you can see how warm Maryhill is. They grow Italian varieties down in Maryhill. And Walla Walla is pretty warm too. Once you start getting into category 4, you're starting to get, that's pretty warm. You have to pick your slopes to try and cool it a bit. Try to maybe be on a north facing slope or an east facing slope as opposed to south. Of course, in the horse heavens, there's planting everything out there, so, yeah. And then on category 5, I don't know about Palermo, Italy, but the rest of those places aren't really known for wine grapes. Palm Springs isn't. I've never seen a wine grape in Palm Springs. I see a lot of wine down there. Yeah. As a friend of mine who was a winemaker told me many years ago that you can get grapes right on Palm Springs, they just won't be balanced. The acid will be gone, which helps balance out sugar. So when you're growing wine grapes, what you're trying to do is you're trying to raise the sugar levels, and then the acid levels in the grapes, they'll come down on their own. The sugar levels will go up on their own too. And what you're trying to do is get to a balance where that wine is going to be balanced between the acid and the sugar. That's really what you're trying to do. you grow in Bakersfield, California, I'm pretty sure you can get 15 tons an acre, to finish sugar-wise, but there won't be any acid in it. That's gonna come from a jug or at the winery. So around here, what we try to do is we're trying to grow, most of the time, we're looking at 3 or 4 ton an acre. Every now and then, in a warm year, we can get away with 5. And it also depends on the varietals. So, anyway, so much for degree days. All right. Another thing that's very interesting about this area is the fact that this is a picture of a vineyard that's on Underwood Mountain. So it's one of the coolest areas. Overall, it is the coolest area in this region, and also probably has the most rainfall. So if you're growing varieties that have trouble with bunch rot, you don't want rainfall, not late in the growing season. During the growing season, you can live with it. That's one of the things I like about the Dalles, because everything that I grow is irrigated. Now, the French don't think that you should do that. The French, in their regions, which is appellation control-y, which would be similar to our AVA areas,